When you're coming down from crystal meth, you are extremely angry. You're paranoid. You are pissed off because your serotonin, which is your mood stabilizer, is fried, and people do not realize that. So you are dealing with more anger than maybe you used to even dealing with, or others are used to dealing with you. When it comes to crystal meth, why we hallucinate and why you end up having anger issues and moodiness, this was something that I wanted to share about. My name is Eric. I go by the Mr. Impulsive on a lot of social media, or Eric B. Zink. Crystal meth was not a drug of choice of mine. But when it comes to like hallucinating, when it comes to anger and mood and all of this, I wanted to share about it because I do have a lot of experience with it. I have done the drug before a good handful of times, not by choice per se. It was laid out in line, so I've only snorted it. I've never IV'd it. I have never mixed it in with coffee and drank it. I've never smoked it, only snorting it. So I can only share from that experience. Also, when it came to drugs, cocaine was my main drug of choice. So why this makes you so moody and why this does so much to your brain, I don't think people fully realize, and I wanted to share about that so that you understand from the insanity of an addict standpoint of how our brain works. If you're new to the channel, hit the like and subscribe button. Hallucinating with crystal meth is very common, and the reason that it is so common is with meth, it is releasing a massive amount of dopamine. It's going to produce more dopamine than what cocaine does, than what heroin does, with anything else does. Crystal meth produces the most dopamine. It also affects your serotonin. So dopamine is that reward sensor, that neurotransmitter that makes you feel good, the big mood energy. Also, when it comes to serotonin, that is your regulator. That is essentially the govern on your temper, your mood, your memory, all of that. And it is highly affecting both of these. So when it comes to like hallucinations, it happens multiple reasons why people get hallucinations when using meth. And hallucinations aren't just visual hallucinations and seeing shadow people. It can also be just the touch of your skin, thinking that there are bugs on it. It can also end up being to the point where it is auditory and you are hearing things. So it's very scary of what happens when it comes to actually using this substance and how it is handling with your serotonin. A lot of this is actually serotonin driven, and it's such a flood of dopamine. It's too much dopamine for your system, and that's a side effect of too much dopamine is hallucinations themselves. Also, you're not sleeping, so the lack of sleep can lead to hallucinations. So this whole combination is what really leads somebody down that paranoia hallucination side, which also plays into the anger side of what meth does to you. Because it has removed a lot of the mood stabilizing that serotonin has, and probably has burned even some of the serotonin receptors, your anger is very high, especially while you're going through the usage of meth, because meth lasts in your system when you do it. Depending on how you do it, it can speed up or lessen the process a little bit. But let's say roughly it's going to be there 5 to 7 hours is how long this high is going to be lasting for. So you're not sleeping, you're not eating, you're malnourished, you are not drinking enough water, you're getting dehydrated, you're seeing stuff, you're hearing stuff. This is all also affecting your mood too. Now that your serotonin is burning out, that guess what happens now is when this drug starts to leave you, you're not producing anything that you should be. So you're not naturally producing dopamine. You're not naturally producing serotonin. So what has happened when you are not happy? Depression and anger are two of the most common things. So you are now going sideways. This is where tweaking comes into play. A lot of people don't realize that tweaking is with meth, and it's actually the come down. That's where the self-harm of picking, of hurting yourself, anger, outburst, all of this comes from is the body itself knowing that the only way it's going to get itself back to that level is by doing more drugs. That is the sick side of addiction, is we will literally start going through massive withdrawals, so angry and so pissed off because we know there is a solution to this. And this is the scary part about drugs and how it just wraps you in. We have to do more drugs to get that normal, what we thought normal feeling back. Now that leads us back down to the path of now we're on a bender, lack of sleep, hallucinations. That is why when it comes to crystal meth addicts are all over the board moody-wise. They have destroyed their skin. They are losing teeth because they're not drinking water. They have dry mouth. Their mouth is essentially rotting out. When you're snorting this and you're smoking it, it is inside coating and destroying all the mucous membrane, all of the cartilage in there. So you don't realize how much damage and how much stress this is putting on your system in a whole. And because of the mental side of it, that is the most powerful side. Your brain only wants to have this more. And so you will continually keep using until it's gone in most cases because your brain cannot regulate itself anymore. And this is scary. When I had done crystal meth, you could notice the effects even snorting this a little bit quicker than what you could when it came to cocaine. It locked my jaw up a lot quicker. It locked me down a lot quicker mentally. It was a harder focus than what Adderall or a stimulant, amphetamine salt was. But when it was leaving my system, even you could feel that it was a smoother system, leaving process, but you could feel it. Like you could mentally adjust and feel it leaving your system. Luckily, I did not like this drug. It wasn't my drug of choice. So I didn't miss it. Where with a lot of people, you get hooked to this because when you are fed so much dopamine in your brain, you feel that good, that amazing, that overwhelming. It is an amazing feeling. You feel like Superman. And that's one of the scariest things ever. You've never felt happiness like this before, and your brain instantly has built a tolerance now all of a sudden to what happiness is for you. Your brain is now dependent on a chemical to find you happiness. And when you're not happy, what's it replaced with? It's replaced with anger, it's replaced with temper, it's replaced with a bad mood, depression. And that is the offset of it and why it is so rampant when it comes to crystal meth use. It is a constant teeter-totter. Either somebody's really high and they're feeling good, or they're low and they're starting to crash. And that's a scary place to be. It's really scary when you see some people coming off of meth, of how it affects their attitude, how it affects their mood, how they are towards others, the harm that they can put themselves in, the harm they can put others in. And to me, it is one of the scariest drugs there is out there. There is nothing to me whatsoever that was ever attractive to meth. Even when I had snorted it and I realized what I had done, it felt like glass shards and my face was on fire just going down. And I was pissed off. Like, I was extremely angry at what I had just done. And I knew that how dangerous it was and how I could easily become addicted to it. Thankfully, I never did. I still leaned towards cocaine. That was my drug of choice. That was my obsession, that and alcohol. Anytime that I did meth, I ended up going the opposite way because I didn't want anything to do with it. So for whatever reason, I'm glad that I didn't get hooked to it. If you're new to the channel, hit the like and subscribe button. Comment down below because it's really interesting to hear addicts interact when it comes to this, on how some of us got highly addicted to this off of just one use, how it could have been a couple uses, how some of us, it was not our drug of choice. It was not our obsession, but for others it was, which shows how different every addict really is. Because that is one of the things that people do not take into account is, as addicts, what we are medicating for, what we are using this as a solution for is different. And that's the part that you can't handle all addiction, I don't believe, the same. And this is a big personal belief of mine. And the more that you share stories, the more that you share your experiences, the more that it lets everybody know that they're not alone. It shows how different these substances are for each and every one of us, and how this experience can be so dangerous for one, but for another, it was an eye-opener and they said, I don't ever want to do the drug again. Does not make any logical sense. When getting sober, man, find what works for you. Whether it's inpatient treatment, outpatient treatment, therapy, therapist, medication, whatever it might be, find what works for you. Because there is no right or wrong way of getting sober. When it comes to stimulants, stimulants are an extremely difficult drug to get off of. Very common to have pause when it comes to stimulants, which is post-acute withdrawal syndrome. So once you go through the physical attributes, you're going to go through the mental attributes. And anything that really has thrown off dopamine and serotonin can take years sometimes to actually level back out. And that's something that a lot of people don't realize. So whether it takes AA, NA, therapy, therapist, medication, inpatient treatment, outpatient treatment, whatever it is, find what works for you, because it becomes a very long process. And that's the worst part is we think after 30 days we're going to be sober and we're not going to feel this anymore. We're not going to feel this way anymore. We're going to feel better because we're sober. Man, it can take years. And that's the scary part, is when it's taking years and fearing that we did, permanent serious damage that we're never going to recover from. It is a scary place to be. It's a nightmare to be. But remember this, that you are worth it. Keep fighting forward. Know that it can and will get better. And don't give up. And for everybody who is out there going through it right now, fighting the fight, I am proud of you, man. It does get better. You are worth it. It's one day at a time. And don't give up.